Good morning. So, a very controversial topic that I want to try to address. It's something I've thought about, I don't know, very much in the past maybe 2 years, a lot in the past 10 years, and a little bit through the past 20 years or so. Why do men thank God for not making them a woman? I've heard some answers, and I think there's some depth in them, but in a simple read, I don't know if they're really understood. One answer I heard is because it's the nature of a man to conquer. So he has to express things in the negative. He wants to thank God for making him who he is, which is the blessing that women say. He wants to do that, but in the way that a man does it is to thank God for not making him something else, because he has to conquer that voice in him that says, you are such and such. You are woman. And therefore, you have to conquer that voice inside you. And that conquering is expressed by saying, thank God for not making me a woman. Why? Because I'm trying to bring down a godly energy that will allow me not to be a woman. What's wrong with being a woman? The other answer I heard, which is related to this, it answers this question. The other answer I heard is that women are higher, and therefore men don't want to deal with such a difficult divine service, and we thank God for making it an easier job, and it's like the opposite. And totally, I think that if you understand that answer in the simple sense, you're completely missing the point. If you say it's difficult to be a woman, and therefore I don't want to be a woman, then you don't understand what it is to be a man. It's difficult in a completely opposite sense to be a woman. It's difficult because a woman represents a higher level of godliness, true. And at that level of godliness, there's no need to conquer. It's like as if you've completed your service of God, and this is the finished product. On the other hand, this is still a work in process for me. I'm not claiming to have the perfect answer, because I'm just right now seeing contradictions in what I'm saying, but I know that they can be resolved. I think I'm on the right track. It's been years in coming, and I don't have the answer yet, but I'm very close to it. And I'll probably get back to this, because now I thought of what inspired this idea this morning, and maybe I'll come back to it, or maybe I'll come back to it tomorrow. But an incredible teaching of the Baal Shem Tov I just learned from Y.Y. Jacobson, of yeshiva.net. It's an incredible site, incredible resource, and everyone should really know about it. But anyways, he teaches that the Baal Shem Tov says that the meaning of Ein Simcha Ela B'Basar, there is no rejoicing today except with meat, which in the simplest level people misunderstand to think it means that it's a great joy to fress and to eat for the sake of eating, which is totally missing the point. The Baal Shem Tov explains, and I think this could be understood in two levels, that Ein Simcha El B'Basar, there's no simcha, there's no real rejoicing in the world that's possible, El B'Basar, until you work with the physical side of you, the aspect that's likened to meat, the flesh of you, the superficial aspect of yourself. You have to access that part of you and elevate it, and that's the simcha. The simcha is the fact that you're incorporating even the physicality of you in your service of God, and therefore you could express simcha. It's not held back by anything. I think there's two ways to understand that I think there's a superficial way to understand that, which I think I just sort of said it in, and there's a deeper way. And this is the way that I want to bring out, and I want to relate this to what it means to be a man, to be someone who has to conquer and not satisfied with a world that's complete. I didn't say much before what the contradiction was, because a woman also represents the moon, and a moon is noted by its being incomplete and only has fullness once in a while. It's a rhythmic cycle, whereas a man is represented by the sun, which is a constant hashpah, a constant source of light, always emitting light. So a woman also represents something that has to be fixed, like the earth. Women are likened to the whole world because the world was created to be fixed. So a man is put on the world to conquer it and to elevate it and to make it to be a partner in creation, because man represents God in creation. Woman represents the world, the souls, the aspect of us that is lacking in a sense and that needs to be filled with godliness, with being a man. Okay, so maybe I'm touching on an answer here to see the relationship between the two forces. The man is put in the world to conquer and correct, to fix the world, to make it civilized. Woman represents the world itself that has to be corrected. So a woman seeks her. It says that a woman wants to be married more than a man. A man is commanded to get married, but a woman wants it more. She doesn't need to be commanded. She feels her incompleteness, and I'm talking about historically what it means to be a woman. These days, I agree, a woman could be everything a man is in every single area, including warfare, probably. I don't see it as a contradiction. I'm saying, what historically does it mean to be a woman? It means to be someone totally fragile and dependent on the protection of man. That's what it meant. Still today, probably in about 70% of the world, my guess, and I don't know anything about demographics of the world and that kind of stuff, but probably 70% of the world is so uncivilized that a woman cannot go there past like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. You cannot walk the streets without feeling very vulnerable. And that's the historic context of what a woman represents and would feel like. Now it's different. A woman can have everything that a man has and probably become a black belt in karate and be able to protect herself. That's not the point. The point is, what is the way things were created and what do they represent? So if men bless every morning, Rabbi Nathan Haney, it's a pleasure and an honor. Why do we bless every morning that Shalaya Asani Isha? I'm going to thank God for making me not something. I don't thank God for not making me. Well, actually, we do. I think it's probably it's inclusive. Everything that we're not, we're thankful to God that we're not as men. Why? Because we have an opportunity to introduce the light of God in that area. Because when we say Shaloi Sani Isha, it comes in a hemshik, it comes in a continuation from saying Shaloi Sani Goy, Shaloi Sani Eved. It's all about, I don't know if they're the same thing. Maybe one's complete rejection and one's an invitation to be involved with it and elevate it. Some things in the world we have to push away completely. But if a woman represents the soul of the Jewish people, which is a pure and holy, the most precious thing in the whole world, that's what a woman represents. Men represent God. We think that if we do that, since we have a dichotomy here, therefore it's like, oh, men are so chauvinistic. They make themselves out to be God. It's a silly thing, because every time in Judaism we have an aspect of pride, or what's the word? Exceptionalist. Every time the Jewish perspective on exceptionalism, when you see yourself as exceptional, as great, as something worthy of pride, that is a responsibility. It's an incumbency for you to actually live up to that. Okay, I'm going to go off topic, but I remembered something that was profound and just said, by the way, by a friend of mine, Nachman Forer. He said a very wise thing to me. My wife likes to play hockey, so some people think that's very masculine. So the notion was suggested that some women are more masculine, and his advice to this was, when a man is more masculine, a woman becomes more feminine automatically. So if you're in a sphere, a world can be any two things. A world is one consciousness connected with another. And always when you're in that dynamic of two, you're going to have one representing masculine energy, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, or feminine energy, Neshamas Yisrael, souls of the Jewish people, the world. You're always going to have this shleimus, this mashpia makabel, the giver of light and the recipient, the speaker and the listener. You'll always have that relationship. And you'll switch roles infinite times a day. And even the different ways to look at things, you're going to switch roles infinite times a day. I'm trying to remember what got me here, but the exact place I forgot. But I'm going to go back to the initial conversation. So when a man is instructed that he has to thank God for not making him something else, not making him a woman, not making him a recipient, but rather a mashpia, so I remember now. That's a responsibility. That's an incumbency. That's a burden if you want to see it in a negative sense. But it's a burden of being responsible enough to fulfill your role. So if you find that the woman aspect of your life, your perception, which is your wife, of course, your home, your climate and setting you live in, the people you work with around you, that represents the woman aspect. If you find that to be too dominant of you, that it's enveloping you and becoming a challenge that you regret, women are better than men. Women are higher than men, in a sense. Each one has something that's necessary. So if a man is in an environment and he finds himself immersed and sunk and taken in by that environment, he has to identify what his role is in that environment, which is to be a mashpia, to not be taken in by, not to let the environment influence you, but you and your representation of godliness. That's an energy, and that's a directive, that's an approach, because the Torah expresses exactly what we have to do to make it a godly environment. So when we take that as a responsibility, it's a completely different message. Man represents God in the world, so be a man. If you find the world overcoming you and your wife, so to speak, is masculine, if you're a greater man, she won't have to do that. She won't have to fill up the places that you're lacking in. She won't have to take the role. So these days, if feminism is such a force to be reckoned with, okay, it's gone off the path. It doesn't have the message of Torah. But the energy behind it is 100% true and real. And it's important for man to see that the world is an environment that he lives in that is now saying, you're not doing your job. You're not being a real man. To be humble enough to take on the message that it says in the Torah. The will of God, the essence of God expressed in the Torah, that is your directive of what it means to be a man in the world. To introduce that into your environment. To conquer the world by civilizing it, by introducing morality, by being a real man and not a needy, complaining creature. Someone who's happy to spread light, to spread what it means to be a real man, which means to bring godliness into the world. I could go on about this. It's 9 o'clock. It's just going to make more work for one day when I'm going to want to splice it all up into categories. Because we have a attention span of about how long? 2 minutes? The only thing that works these days is a picture of your dog. If you put a picture of your dog, you'll get 1 million hits. And if you're popular, usually because you're cynical or humorous, which is a good quality. Cynical is a bad quality, but obviously there's some energy there that we have to tap into also. There's some kind of cynicism. I think the holy counterpart of cynicism, and this is a whole other topic, maybe it's something I could speak about later. The counterpart to cynicism is outrage. That's the holy expression of cynicism. When you express outrage for a world gone awry, to a world filled of immorality, in a world where people are no longer even embarrassed to be evil. at least be embarrassed. All those who embrace qualities or lifestyles or ideas or platforms, if you're a politician, that are openly evil, at least be embarrassed about it. This, I heard recently, is the chutzpah of Haman. Haman is a force of chutzpah. We were saying before it was cynicism. They're related. Chutzpah is the opposite of outrage. It's the exact counterpart. Outrage is a demand for the world, or even for God. Kaviyachol. It's an expression of outrage to God that the world is intended to be a place where it's worthy of God's presence, and it's not now. So I'm going to tap into outrage to fix that. That's what it is to be a man, and that's what it means. Shalayas ani isha. I want to give to the isha. It says, Ein isha ela lanai. I think those are the words in the Gemara. It says a woman is only for beauty and preciousness, that the man should feel like he wants to bestow upon the feminine aspect of the world, his wife, the environment, his house, his children, everything inclusively. He wants to bestow goodness on that, and that's a merit to him. That's a dignity for him. That's his pride, to see the beauty in the Isha and say, thank God that I am allowed to be the other of that, and therefore be the one to give to that. That I have the merit, the schus, the opportunity to give and to shine light, to be a source of livelihood and welfare to everyone around me. Everyone else is the woman in relationship to you, if you're a man. And if you're a woman also, you have a Veda, a divine service that's associated with embracing masculine elements also. Obviously, if anyone makes this into a whole thing about chauvinism, I'm not interested in you anyways, because it's evil. See what someone wants. If you're talking about violence to others, you're probably evil. If you're talking about a violence on the evil within us, you're probably good. If your whole message is work on yourself and conquer yourself so you can impart godliness to the world, that's a good message. If you're saying, if you find something evil in the world, destroy it, and it won't be there anymore, that's probably evil, people. Don't have anything to do with attitudes like that. Distance yourself from that to the nth degree, to the ultimate degree. Only embrace goodness. Don't put cynical people on the throne of any country you live in or in any mindset that you have. Embrace goodness and conquer the world for goodness. And that doesn't mean destroy the world. Elevate it. See it as precious. See it as noi, beauty, wonder, the desire to give to another. See the world as worthy of being good to and not destroy. That's evil. It says the Alter Rebbe wouldn't even break something that was useless to him, and he's going to make it. It's talking about a silver snuff box that the Tzemach Tzedek, his grandson, told someone who he heard the story from, that when he was given, the Alter Rebbe, the first Lubavitcher Rebbe, was given this snuff box, this silver, beautiful snuff box as a gift, that he broke off the top to use it as a tefillin mirror, to make sure his tefillin was placed between his eyes and on the top of his forehead. And when the Tzemach Tzedek heard this, he said, my grandfather was not shaykh. It wasn't appropriate. It's not appropriate to say of him, because it's impossible that it should be so, to break anything, not himself and not others, and not even a snuff box. He wouldn't break it. Certainly, all he did was remove the hinge and dismantled it. Then he was able to use part for holiness, and the other part, I don't know, maybe he used it for a box or something else. But he dismantled it. He took off the connection, the rod that connects holiness from profane. He just removed that, not an act of destruction. But the opposite of construction, which is dismantling, the Mishkan, the sanctuary in the desert, was dismantled. It wasn't destroyed every time. I mean, God has infinite wealth. He could have created a new Mishkan, a new sanctuary every time they moved places in the desert. But he didn't. They dismantled it. They put it back together. The world is not evil. It's not meant to be destroyed. Even if you could recreate it, even if you have all the wealth in the world, that you don't need the wealth, or the Nazis were so evil they wanted to kill Jews. It wasn't enough to have them as slaves. It's not enough to harness the energy that they could have produced. I just saw an interesting post that said the colonial Americans killed so many natives that it affected the global climate. It reduced the heat in the world. That's how many they killed. So obviously, if we're given a native, wild world that we encounter and discover, it's not meant to destroy to the point that it makes a whole global freezing epidemic. That's not the point. The point is to go into that environment of what you see as barbaric and educate and elevate and see the beauty in it and the energy in it to be tapped into and refine it. And that's the spirit of how we enter each day. So I don't want to go longer because it's long enough. But for today, I hope everyone enjoyed it, and I hope everyone has a blessed day.